Good morning, everybody. We are doing our science lesson today. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of March, and our WALT is to set up an investigation about tooth decay. So if you could just pause the video and write your date and WALT in your books. Again, make sure it's really neat, beautifully joined up handwriting, and make sure you underline your date and WALT. And then when you're ready to move on, just continue with the video. Okay, first thing I want to do, I've got a 5 a day here, 5 questions. You don't need to print these off or anything. You can write your answers straight into your book. I shall read you out the questions, you try and answer, and then we will go through the answers. Most of this is, well, all of it is on things that you looked at last week in science. So, number 1, what is the function of the canines? So in other words, what is the job of the canine teeth, if you can remember that from last week? If you didn't do your science last week, don't worry, you will find these questions a little bit tricky, but when we go through the answers, you might learn something. Question 2, what type of tooth is used for cutting and biting? So if you can remember the name of the tooth, it's the one at the front. Okay, pause the video while you think about that. Question 3, what causes a milk tooth to fall out? Think about the reason your milk teeth or your baby teeth all fall out. What is the reason for that? And question 4, how many teeth does an adult have? I wonder if anyone can remember the number. And question 5, does anybody know what is the white part of the tooth called? That's the bit that we see. Okay, pause the video while you do your answers, and then I shall go through the answers with you. Okay, so here are our answers to the questions. Question 1, the function of the canines. Now the canines are the sharp pointy teeth. You've got 2 at the front, at the top, and 2 at the bottom. They're sort of next ones along. Okay, they're the sharp pointy ones, and they're used for tearing and ripping food. What type of tooth is used for cutting and biting? They're the ones right at the front. They are called the incisors, and you can spell it like that. If you didn't get the spelling right, don't worry about it, but just have a look at how it is spelt. Question 3, what caused the milk tooth to fall out? And the answer is obviously when an adult tooth grows up and pushes it out. So it's the adult teeth growing up that force the other teeth to fall out. Question 4, I wonder if anybody knew how many teeth an adult had. Did anyone remember or know? It was 32. Okay, most adults should have 32 teeth. And finally, what is the white part of the tooth called? The bit that we see is called the enamel. Okay. So maybe you weren't sure of some of those answers, but hopefully we've reminded ourselves and learnt something new already thinking about our teeth. So just want to show you a diagram of a tooth again, and you can see there, it's like a cross section of a tooth. It's like the tooth has been cut into, and we don't see all of that. The only bit we really see on the tooth is this top bit here, which is the white part called the enamel. Now, underneath that enamel, if you were to chip away at it, there is another section called the dentine. And then you've got a soft bit inside, which is the pulp. And it's in the pulp that you've got all the blood vessels and the nerves. Okay. And the tooth is sort of in a layer of a thing called cementum that keeps it in place, a bit like cement keeps holds bricks together. And the red bit here, which is a bit you can see if you sort of open up your mouth a bit more, is your gum. Okay. Now, the top part of the tooth that we see that is poking out is called the crown, and the root is the bit underneath that we don't see. Now, baby teeth or milk teeth don't have as big a root as adult teeth because they don't need to stay in your mouth as long. Whereas when your adult teeth start to come through, they've got big roots, so they stay in your mouth for a long time. Now, that is a diagram of a healthy tooth. But unfortunately, if we don't look after our teeth properly, we can get tooth decay. And there is a picture there of a decaying tooth. Okay, you can see it's gone all black here. Okay, the root is down here is like an abscess, which is like a big painful spot, I suppose, underneath in the root, and the damage goes all the way up through the tooth, and that would be extremely painful. Now, tooth decay happens. We all know that we need to keep our teeth clean and that we need to try and avoid too much sugary foods. And the reason for that is the tooth decay is caused when we have sugar that's in food and drink, and there's lots of sugar in foods and drinks, and even in drinks sometimes we don't realize. That sugar reacts with the bacteria that's in the plaque. Now, the plaque is a thin layer that goes on front of your teeth, which collects if we don't clean our teeth properly. If we clean our teeth really well and get rid of the plaque, there'll be less of that bacteria in the plaque to react with the sugar, okay? So if there's a thin layer of plaque on your teeth and then you eat something sugary, the sugar from the food and drink can react with the bacteria that's in that plaque, and that can make an acid. An acid is not good because it starts to make little holes in your teeth and it starts to decay and rot your teeth. Doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? So that is how tooth decay happens. And if you ever visit the dentist, and it might have been difficult over the last few months to go to the dentist, but they may start scraping a little bit and scraping some of the plaque away to try and help clean your teeth. And they'll often talk to you about keeping your teeth clean and trying to avoid too much sugar and too much sugary drinks and foods, okay? So today we are going to be creating or planning and doing an investigation to investigate how different liquids can affect tooth decay. So what I want you to do first of all is come up with a question. We want to find out if different liquids do different amounts of decay to a tooth, okay? Think about what we might need to do this and think about how you would carry this test out. I'd like just to pause the video for a moment and just have a little think, okay? If we were in the classroom now, we'd be talking about this. Obviously, it's not so easy because we're not. But I want you to pause the video, have a little think, and maybe try and come up with a question that you could ask that you want to try and find the answer to do with finding out which liquids cause the most amount of tooth decay. Okay, so just pause the video for a second. Right, have you had time to come up with a question? What I'd like you to do in your science books underneath your data vault is, underneath your 5-a-day, is write the word question. You can see it there in green. So again, pause the video, write the word question. Then I would like you to write down the question that you have come up with. Now, if you're really struggling for ideas, don't worry, I will give you one now, okay? So if you've come up with a question, brilliant, pop it in. But if you couldn't think of one, I have got a question. Which liquid causes the most tooth decay? So in your books now, you should have written the word in green that says question, and then you need to write your question. Which liquid causes the most tooth decay? Or you might have come up with a different worded question, that's fine, provided it's to do with liquids and tooth decay. And don't forget your question mark. Okay, pause the video while you get that bit done. Right, wants to think now. Now, we're not going to get teeth today, I'm afraid. We're not going to rip teeth out of people and start putting those in the liquids. We're actually going to use eggs. The egg shell is going to act like the enamel on the teeth, okay? And these are hard-boiled eggs because we don't want the eggs to splurge out. Because if you want to carry out this investigation yourself at home, you can also set this up. But what you will need to do is get someone to help you hard boil the eggs, and you do need 6 of them. So if you don't want to do it at home or you haven't got the resources, that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all, okay? So each egg is going to be representing a tooth, and this shell is the enamel, okay? So we want to investigate how different liquids cause differing amounts of tooth decay. What else are we going to use? What are we going to do? Okay, right, well done if you thought that we are going to get different liquids and we're going to put the eggs into different liquids. Now I've got some cups, okay? And you are going to, if you're going to set this up at home, will need the same. You need some cups and then you need some different liquids. And what we're going to do is put a different liquid in each cup and put an egg in each cup and then leave them for a while and see after a week or so how much damage has been done to each of the eggs, which is like our tooth, to see which liquid has caused the most amount of tooth decay. So because you are going to be back in school next week, we're going to set the investigation up today. I will have it set up in school. And then when you come back into school next week, we will look at the results. So you don't need to worry about the results today. So that's the general thing of what we are going to do. Now, the different liquids that we're going to use, we're going to use Coke. I'm going to use Coke, not Diet Coke, just normal Coke. Okay, I've got a big bottle there. We are going to use vinegar. Got some vinegar there. We are going to use milk. We're going to use water, apple juice, and orange juice. Okay, so we're going to put a different liquid into each of my 6 cups and then an egg into each cup. Okay, So before we go any further, it's always really good to make a prediction and try and think about why you think that. So underneath where you've got your question, I would like you to write the word prediction, okay? And then you can use this prediction that's on the board, but fill in the blanks. And I've written at the bottom the different liquids that we are using for the investigation. So it says, I predict that the something will affect the eggshell the most because, and then you're going to write alternatively, I think that the liquid will have least effect on the eggshell because. So you're basically trying to tell me which of these 6 liquids you think is going to cause the most damage to the egg and which of these 6 liquids is going to cause the least damage to the eggshell. And then you've got to try and think about a reason. So if, for example, you think that the apple juice is going to cause the most amount of damage, you would write, I predict that the apple juice will affect the eggshell the most because, and you might say, because it's got a lot of sugar in it. Maybe it does, maybe you're not sure about that one. Okay, that's an example. I'm not saying that's the right answer. That's just an example. And then you will say, alternatively, I think that and let's just say you think vinegar. I think the vinegar will have least effect on the eggshell because, and you might say because it doesn't have much sugar in it, okay? If that's what you think. I'm not giving anything away with what I'm saying because your prediction is what you think, okay? So what I'd like to do is pause the video and just in your books, write out that prediction. Beautiful, neat handwriting. You've got the word sentences there to write. It's always important when we're doing investigation that we predict. We write a question, then we predict what we think is going to happen. So pause the video and start again when you are ready. Right, next thing we need to think about what equipment we need. Okay, so we need a container. We need 6 containers, okay? We need a measuring jug, okay? Because we're going to need to measure out our liquids. We need a boiled egg. We need 6 boiled eggs, which I've got here. And we need the different liquids. So what I'd like you to do now, underneath where you've got your prediction, is write down equipment and then list the equipment that you will need for your investigation. Okay? Again, pause the video until you're ready to move on. Right, next thing we need to think about. So we're going to set up this investigation. I'm going to put a different liquid in each of my cups. I'm then going to put an egg into each of my cups, okay? Now we need to think about the things that we're going to change in this test, okay? These are independent variables, okay? So what is the thing that we are going to be changing each time? So I've got 6 cups, I'm putting an egg in each cup, but what is the thing that is going to change? That's right, the thing that is going to change is the liquid that we're putting in. In each cup, we are putting a different liquid. That's the thing we are changing. So if that's the thing that we are changing, what are the things that we are keeping the same? That's our controlled variable. What things are we going to keep the same? Okay, so let's have a think about the things that we're going to keep the same. We're going to keep the same container. I've got 6 of the same cup. We're going to place our cups in the same place. It wouldn't be a very fair test if I put 1 cup of milk in the freezer and 1 cup of Coke in the oven, okay? Because then we're storing them at very different temperatures, which wouldn't tell us whether it was the temperature or the liquid that has done damage to the egg. We also need to keep the same amount of liquid in each cup. It wouldn't be a very fair test if I put a tiny bit of milk in that cup and then lots of Coke in the other cup, okay? We need to keep that the same. We also need to make sure we look at the eggs for the same length of time. It wouldn't be very fair if I looked at the cup with Coke in after 1 day and said, oh, not much damage, and then looked at the cup with vinegar in after a week. You have to say, in a week, we'll look at all of the cups at the same time. And the other thing to keep the same is the type and size of the egg. Okay, all my eggs are medium-sized eggs. I haven't got any ginormous eggs, any small eggs, just gone for the same. So those are our controlled variables. Those are all the things that we are going to keep the same. So what I would like you to do in your books now is write the heading fair test and then draw yourself a very small line, doesn't need to be very long, down your book and write controlled variables. Those are all the things we're keeping the same. and then list those things, and then independent variables, the thing we are changing, on the other side, okay? Whenever we carry out an investigation, we think about what are we changing, what one thing are we changing, everything else needs to stay the same, okay? So pause the video and get that bit done. Right, this is where we're going to write our method. Now, if you are going to just follow me doing this, you can do your method as you go along. So in your books, write the heading method. Right, so where you've now written method, we need to think about what the first thing is we need to do. And the first thing is that we need to do is get 6 cups. So that can be your step 1. So in your books, write step 1, get 6 cups. Okay. Step 2, we're going to fill each cup with a different liquid. Now, this is where we need our measuring cylinder, because I am going to measure 200 millilitres of each liquid into each cup. So you can see here, I have got 200 millilitres of orange juice. I have got 200 millilitres of milk. I've got 200 millilitres of water, 200 millilitres of Coke, okay, 200 millilitres of vinegar, and I've got, just doing it now, 200 millilitres of apple juice. And I'm going to just check the measurements, okay? So I've kept the same amount of liquid. The only thing I am changing is the type of liquid. So I've got my 6 cups set up, okay? So that is step 2. Step 2 is put 200 millilitres of a different liquid in each cup. What do I need to do next? This is step 3 in your book. Step 3, put an egg into each of the liquids. Okay, so I'm not going to drop them. I'm going to just place them in. Okay, there's an egg there. And I carry on and continue. There's the milk, and I put an egg. You can see I'm putting it into each cup. Okay, and I go along and I'll do that with each of my cups. Put an egg. This is the apple juice. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the orange juice. Okay, and so on and so on. So step 3, put an egg into each cup. What are we going to do now? Step 4, leave the cups for 1 week and look in a week's time to see what has happened to the eggshells. So our results are going to be based on our observation. We're going to look at these eggs in a week's time and see which liquid, sorry, you can't really see them there, which liquid has caused the most amount of damage to the eggshell, because that will give us an indication as to which liquid causes the most amount of tooth decay. So once you've written your step-by-step method, and it only really needs to be 4 points, you are ready to stop. You've done the writing, you've done the written bit, because the results we're going to have to look at in a week. And as I say, if you set this up at home and you want to do it at home, you can look at your results and you can complete that yourself. We are going to look at it on Tuesday when we're back in school, and I'll show you all the cups and we'll have a look at the eggshells and we'll see what has happened. So if you haven't set this up, it doesn't matter. But as long as you've done the writing up to see, when we're planning an investigation, we come up with our question, we predict what was going to happen, we think about how we're going to set it all up, we set up our investigation, and then we look at our results. And once we've got some results, we then are going to write a conclusion. We're going to summarize what we have found out, okay, from doing our investigation. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If you do it yourself, have fun. I'd be interested to see what results you get. Otherwise, when we're all back in school next week, we shall have another look at this. Okay, have a great day, everybody, and I will speak to you soon. See you. Bye.